Hello, welcome. My name is Shavariel. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I welcome you. I hope you all are having a good evening. And for those who you are returning, welcome again. It's just a lot of welcomes here. I missed you. And so we're going to catch up a little bit and, of course, have some talks. Now, what I really wanted to talk about is teaching your children in your own way about what it means to not speak to strangers. So I get a lot of compliments about how I teach my child not to speak to strangers. And what I did was have you as a parent or even as an aunt or uncle or cousin have gone out in public and maybe with your nephew or say you are a parent with your son or your daughter and you just find that they are social butterflies, which is amazing. Trust me, all that energy, all that kindness into one small person as a child, it's just so amazing to see. And their energy is just on 1,000 levels. But have you ever gone out with your child or with your cousin or with your nephew or your niece and you see that they're talking, which is fine, but they're talking to strangers and telling them stuff like they don't need to know? So say like if you and your child or maybe you and your nephew or niece has to go, you're running a little errand, you stop at the store and then after you're going to go to the bank and then go to a birthday party. And so you have this child whom you're caring after. They're saying hello, and then typical response for well, not typical, but a normal reply from other adults to a child is, "How old are you?" And then the child may say their age, but then the child will continue to talk and just be like, "Oh, we're going to the bank after this," or "We're going to a birthday party." And they'll be like, "Oh, really?" And then you, being the adult, is just like, "Oh no, no, we don't want to tell everybody that. We don't know this person." Or something like that. Or just say something like, "Oh, we're going to the park, we're going to do such and such." And it's just like, no, don't tell them our whole day. Don't tell them that. We don't know these people. No. I've had some instances like that, and it's left me blushed in my face because I'm just looking at my child like, yes, I want him to have a beautiful, healthy social life. It's just certain things we're not able to tell strangers, and we don't need to tell strangers because it's none of their business. So, here's the thing. When you're teaching your child or children not to speak to strangers, of course, this is just not a general blanket statement. You want your child or your children to say hello and be interactive and be sociable. What I do is I say, okay, you can say hello, but that's it. And unless I say it's okay to talk to that person, that adult, then you're okay to say hello and that's all. Now, the reason why I do this is because, and I'm not wanting to keep bringing this up. This will be one of those moments where it's just like, okay, we're moving on. But the reason why I have it like that is because in the past, when we were at grocery stores, specifically grocery stores, there would be human traffickers there. And so what they do is a human trafficker would just ask you questions, look at your child, and just make an evaluation. And of course, they're not going to come up to you to say, "Hello, my name is so and so, I'm a human trafficker. Yeah, I just want to take a look at you and your child. Yeah, because I just want to make sure you're what we're looking for." No, it doesn't happen like that. They'll ask you questions mainly to get a sense of who you are and then get a little bit about your child. But these are innocent questions just to say, "Hey, how are you doing? Oh, your child is so beautiful or so handsome, or I want a child," or, something to that magnitude. But they always ask, "What do you do for work?" to say, I work, and how about you? It seems innocent until it gets to the work part, because then they'll proceed with, I'm being mentored, or I'm an entrepreneur, or I know a couple or a person who has me under their mentorship, or whatever the case may be. And then they'll ask, are you happy with your job, or are you looking to switch careers, something to that magnitude. And that is what lets me know, okay, this person has alternative motives. Okay, now it's time to leave and get away from that person. So that's why I've had to take this measure, because of my experience. Now, everybody is not like that. I pray you all do not have those experiences. But for the sake of safety for you and your child, I say always teach your children in your own way that speaking to strangers is not a good thing unless you say it's okay. Like, it's good to say hello, but after that, it's like, okay, well, let me look at mommy, or let me look at daddy as the child. Let me look at mommy, let me look at daddy to see if it's okay. And that's what my child does, to look at me to say it's okay. Now, here was my mistake. I would tell my child, okay, you can say hello, but that's it. And then just leave my child to fend for himself. Now, this sounds terrible. And I don't mean fend for himself to say, look, you're on your own. But I'm just saying, okay, you say hello and that's it, without any explanation. And then I realized I was approaching it the wrong way. See, I had to realize, okay, my child is a child. I have to step in and protect him and be his security and be his escort and be his mom, of course, and just take all these safety measures. Because for some reason, I find that more adults talk to, if you have a child, more adults talk to the child first instead of the adult. They'll speak to the child and then maybe look at the adult, which I think is backwards, because if I see a child, I'm going to acknowledge the parent first and then speak to the child, if it's okay. But with that, I was on a roll. And now I'm not. Okay, let me wrap this up. So, okay, basically, just in your own comfort, to teach your child what it means to say, look, hey, you can be sociable to say hello, but understand there are certain safety measures we have to take. We don't want to talk to everybody, because not everybody are good people. That's the thing we have to have our young children understand, because first of all, they're young. They've only been here on earth for a few years, right? So when you've been here, and adults, because we were children before. So being on earth for a few years, you don't know. You don't necessarily know good and evil yet. That's why it's good as the parent or as the caregiver or the guardian, to teach your children that as soon as possible and at their young age, so that they're aware. And so with that, my child will look at me to make sure, like, mommy, is it okay? And sometimes I'll say no. That's my choice. I say no. Let me figure out this person first, or let me see what they getting ready to say, or let me see what they looking at, or what, let me see first. Let me get their vibe first. And if they vibe isn't good, no, there's not going to be a point in them talking to you. They got to get through me to say hello to you or to ask you anything. And that was another thing with that. So when it comes to family members, of course you want your child to be social and interactable, or that's not even a word, interactive with them. Here's why it's not a black or white or gray area with teaching your children not to speak to strangers. Because when you tell a child that, all they're thinking is, okay, that means anybody outside of mommy and daddy, I can say hello, but that's it. And that's where you have to guide the child, your children, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, your daughters and your sons, to say, look, I know I said this. However, we're with family now, and you're okay to talk as much as you want, or you're okay to go spend time with your cousins, go play with your cousins, or something like that. So it's not a one command. That's what I was getting on. It's not a one command to say, baby, okay, no talking to strangers, you can say hello. Because now when you get in front of family members and they're quiet, and now family members may take it offensive to say, hey, we just spent time together, you're not talking to me. And it's just like, no, it's not that. I'm teaching my child about strangers. And so even with that, we haven't gotten to the relatives part yet, because I wanted to guide them slowly into the process. And I have to explain every step. So then my child knows what to expect, and then also who's okay to talk to, basically. And so that's what I was getting at, having my child just understanding, like, look, when my child is quiet, okay, now I step in. Hello, stranger, who are you? Because a lot of people will say, hello, how old are you? And I have to tell them, like, look, even with doctors, it can be my doctor. Look, okay, I teach my child not to speak to strangers. And a vast majority of them say, that is, wow, that's really good. And again, it's just for safety measures. Even with doctors, yes, I see my doctor on a not a daily basis, but on a regular basis. But the thing is, I'm just there to get some information and give information. So, and this is an appointment. The doctor has to go see other patients. So we're just there to say the health status, basically. And so I don't necessarily want there to be too much like interruption of, like, not even interruption. It's just that I just want to get in and out of the doctor's office. And so if there can be like a little bit of, quiet time while I'm at my doctor's visit, while my child is understanding, okay, mommy's speaking to another adult, okay, let me wait for her. Because then my child might say something, and then it just threw me off to say, look, doc, I noticed on this day something happened, and because I don't necessarily go into a doctor's note with notes. I'm just remembering it in the back of my mind to say, look, here's what I got going on. What are our next steps? How do we make this better? Or, how do I continue the healing process or whatever? And so it's not that nothing's wrong with me. I'm just giving that example to say, look, this is why I teach my child not to speak to strangers. Sometimes it may be a business meeting, and I just want to get in and out of the meeting. Exchange of information. I get information, and then I provide information to that adult. And the less time that me and my child have for distractions or unnecessary moments of saying things that don't make sense, I want that to be eliminated, so then we can go move forward with the meeting and then go on to our next task. So that's what I have. So what do we get out of this? You parent in your own parenting technique. It's no, I'm not even going to say right or wrong way, because there is a wrong way to parent, and we know what that is. But you personalize it to what you need and how you need to parent. So that's what I can say. Tailor your parenting to how you need it, how your child needs it. And remember, your child is still getting used to you also. So here's the thing. With parenting, I feel like we see it more of a responsibility rather than a covenant we made with God. Does that make sense? So what I mean by that is, instead of taking parenting in to say, look, Lord, I laid down, I buried these children, you gave me these children. And then I birthed these children. We birthed these children. And well, the woman births the children. And so I'm doing this because I want to be fruitful in the land and teach our children your word to go forth and preach the gospel. And they preach the gospel when they get of age, and then they have their own children, so on and so forth. It's a covenant. And then instead of that, I feel like most parents, even myself, I've done it too, to look at it as it's just another responsibility, or not another responsibility. It's a bigger responsibility. Expenses, clothes, food, got to feed the baby or children, extracurricular activities, school, and so on and so forth. But not realizing that this is a child with their own brain, their own personality. And so I say that to say your child is still learning you. Also, they don't know that they know you're their mom, or that you are their father, but they're still getting to know you, and you are still getting to know your child. It's a lifetime event, and you will always learn new things about each other. We learn new things about ourselves all the time, right? So could you imagine you raising a child from birth to when they grow older? So it takes patience. I know sometimes it can be irritating and flustering and frustrating at times, but just think about this. And in those moments that you get frustrated, think back to when they were a newborn and they had their small feet, and you had to pick them up like this, and you had to burp them like this, and you had to rock them back and forth like this. Think about that, because what that will do is to say, look, this child is not an adult. This child is a child, and they're growing. And that was my mistake early on, just thinking that, oh, this child is going to be a child. Oh, go on and walk. Because of the expectations that every child has to be just enhanced, just so far enhanced. And every child has their own growth rate, intellectually, spiritually, physically, educationally, and mentally. Every child is not going to be the same. So just remember that. Patience. And just remember, you were a child too. And I think about that all the time. Like, man, I know I gave my parents some challenges to say, like, look, don't you touch this. Don't touch it. You can be like, okay. And then you go, okay, little story time. And then we'll go on and get out of here. But so when I was a child, I remember I was a toddler, and I was sitting, my mom sat me on the kitchen countertop, which was next to the stove. And she had a pot with boiling water in there. She was getting ready to cook some ramen noodles, I think. Anyway, and so she was just like, don't touch it, okay? And I was like, okay. And don't you know, I touched that pot. Boiling hot water. I touched it. And so I just think about that when I'm teaching my child something, especially, about not talking to strangers, because you just never know what a person's intentions are. We live in a different society. And no, I'm not saying every person is bad, but you have bad people out there. And so you just want to know how to handle yourself in all areas. So that's what I have for you. Just when you just like, man, this child is not listening, just think back to when you were a child. Were you listening? Were you? Go ask your mom. Go ask your mom. Go ask your dad. Or if your grandparents were, go ask them. Or if your aunts and uncles were, go ask them. Be like, was I like this when I was a child? They'd be like, who were you? I got some stories for you. So just keep that in mind. But remember, stay safe, have a good evening, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.